Welcome everybody. It's game preview time, Adam, but we got a lot of other stuff to talk about as well. Injury report came out last night. Some Buffs recruiting news, not in a good way. There's a lot to get to today before we actually get to our preview and predictions of the Arizona State game. Let's just start out the freshest thing, which is the decommitment today. The Buffs have had a few of them recently. We talked about Gavin Mueller on our video on Wednesday, but another one here on Thursday morning as we do this.
Yeah, as a Buffs fan, you were hoping flip season meant a little bit something different for you, right? This is the third one now, and all talented guys. Demontre Timms is a three-star. He's not as highly rated as Emmanuel Ruffin and Gavin Mueller has become to be, as he's just completely blown up this season in Illinois. But Demontre Timms is a talented commit, not one that you wanted to lose. And he comes to Indiana, and they got a lot of mojo going right now
Mhm.
under Kirk Cignetti. So. I wouldn't say it's shocking, but it's disappointing if you're a Colorado fan. Now they do still have 10 verbal commits on board. They're going to have to make hay again from the transfer portal, Brian. They're just going to have to evaluate better than they did a year ago.
Yeah, and the flips are unfortunate, but I mean, they're losing them to Ohio State, Miami, and Indiana. I mean, these are, Ohio State and Indiana are the top two teams in the country, and Miami is, a team that's projected in the playoff right now. And so, when you're 3-7, it's going to be hard to compete when those teams want your players, right?
Yes and no. Like, yes, if they're losing guys to Tulane, then you really got to question what the heck is going on in Boulder, right?
Right, right.
That's not the case, obviously. But you were hoping in year three under Coach Prime, given some of the recruiting successes they've had, both back when he was at Jackson State, going all the way back there to what he's been able to do, bringing in Travis Hunter and coming to Colorado, bringing in Jordan Seaton and bringing in Julian Lewis. Like you wanted to kind of just see that momentum kind of carry itself now. 3-7 speaks for itself, and there's going to be some people that are apprehensive. And maybe you're weeding some guys out, but like I don't feel like that's the case with Emmanuel Ruffin or Gavin Mueller. Like you definitely want to sign those guys if you can. I guess my
Yeah.
my larger point is that it's hard to make excuses for that in year three. You want to be able to continue that recruiting momentum, and they haven't been able to do it right now. Now, they do have, again, some really talented players. We talked on our video yesterday about linebacker Rodney Colton Jr. that's coming out to Boulder this weekend. Uh, they've got most of those guys on their 10-man commit list. You would say those are guys you'd be excited to join. I don't know how many outside of Carson Crawford, who's a blue chip linebacker, Preston Ashley, a blue chip nickelbacker, and Colton are going to be able to play right away. Maybe Demoto Pecco Jr., who's coming in from the JUCO ranks. So
Yeah.
uh, you're just not seeing the same juice on the recruiting trail as you used to, and that leads to a lot of different factors. We could probably spend the next hour talking about what this program has been through the last 2 years and how the recruiting has kind of developed. I do think there needs to be a little bit of a shift in terms of their philosophy that Coach Prime is going to, if he wants to be a coach that wins a national championship, he's going to have to do some in-home visits at some point.
Yeah.
I get going to schools is difficult, as he's pointed out. Like you go to Northwestern High School and you didn't go to Northeastern. Northeastern's pissed at you. But if you're going to see a specific recruit, I don't think that is quite the same case.
Yeah, and certainly winning changes a lot of that, right? And that's why I agree with you. There's probably no excuse in year three because if you're 6-4 right now, you're maybe not losing these guys, and maybe adding some guys as well. So that's where the unfortunate thing is, and that's probably the biggest thing is that's the change in philosophy is start winning games instead of losing them. That's going to help a lot. So anything else on recruiting before we shift over to the injury report?
Let's get into the injury report because yeah, it wasn't the worst one we've seen this season, but
Right.
still a little concerning on some levels.
Yeah, I think for me, this isn't probably wouldn't be at the top of the list as far as the biggest names, but one of the biggest surprises for me was seeing Ben Finiseth out because we just talked to him on Tuesday and he looked just fine. I'm like, what are you talking about? And then on Wednesday we talked to Jeremiah Brown, and he's coming off of practice, and he's on the questionable list. I'm like, wait a minute, what's going on with these guys? So um, it's an interesting injury list, in that, and it's hard to know really who's out, because the rules state that if a guy's on there a couple times, and he's going to be out for weeks, you can take him off. So there's a lot more guys that are injured that are actually on this list.
Yeah, it was weird. Last week, Alex McPherson was not on the list, but he was still hurt.
Yeah,
But he was on previous lists.
yeah,
There was a week where Terrell Timmons wasn't ever on the participation report, even on the game day one, and he didn't play due to injury. Um, I, yeah, I don't know. They got to streamline this process a little bit more, Brian. I think what you need is like more categories, in like one of them's got to be season-ending injury. Just let
yeah,
people know, in
right.
because it's too confusing otherwise. Like Simeon Price has been on the injury report for a while now. I don't think he was on it yesterday, was he?
No, and I don't think he was
So
on it last week either.
does that mean he's going to play then or not? Like I would
Right.
like I'd kind of like to know.
Yeah, I don't think he was on it last week either. I could be wrong, but we've seen him out there practicing with Terrell Timmons. Though I will say he's at 4 games and he's got a red shirt available. So it looks to me like, because I've seen him at practice on well off videos, I think they're just planning on redshirting him. I don't think he's hurt.
It's a participation report, though,
Right,
not an
right.
injury report.
That's
So
true.
call it an
Yeah,
injury report and don't call it a participation report, I guess is
right.
a point I would make there.
Yeah, yeah, and yes, and they probably should streamline it to where there should be a category out for season, and those guys are just on there all the time, and so it's that weekly reminder. Now that list is going to be a lot longer, but yeah, as far as guys we know, I mean, RJ Johnson all of a sudden out again. It looks like he's been close to coming back recent weeks, but now he's on that out list, and so that one's kind of an interesting one. Amari McNeil, Tafik Thomas still out. Um, Tafik's another one that I think he's right at 4 games and has that red shirt, so I'm not surprised on him. But Amari being out certainly hurts.
Yeah, I mean, you could make a case those are their two best defensive tackles. I would,
Yeah,
I mean, with Amari, it's not in question. He's one of their top two when he's healthy and he's locked in. And Tafik Thomas has had some real bright spots in those 4 games.
yeah, hmm,
He's looked good in those 4 games, and so if you could have him part of that rotation next year, I mean, that would be huge because they're going to have to really revamp that. You're going to kind of build it around Brandon David Swain, you would think. Um, so yeah, those are tough ones. And Amari, now I don't know about eligibility because Ben Finnis says he's coming back. So I'm like, I don't know. Can Amari come back? No, he's probably going to the NFL. Like it's kind of like the participation report with eligibility. It's like I really want to be able to wrap my head around this stuff, but
yeah.
the goalpost keeps moving on us.
Yeah, and I think with Ben, I went and looked at his history. I think he's going to get a medical red shirt for the 2023 season. He had season-ending surgery after 2 games that year. So, but yeah, that one surprised everybody. I think it surprised the sports information staff that I think their plan was to put seniors up there this week, and so I think they were a little surprised when they heard Ben say, "Yeah, it's not actually my last game."
I was like, is this the worst moment of my journalistic career? Because like I was like, he's a senior. He's a fifth year senior. Like
Yeah,
like when I asked the question, it wasn't like a, in doubt type of thing.
yeah,
So good
yeah.
for him though. I mean, if we can get Ben a waiver every year just to hang around Boulder, man, I think we'd all be good with that.
Yeah, I think we would be. Now, the other thing, obviously, the starting tackles. That's a big one. Both of them were out at West Virginia. Jordan Seaton was in a walking boot at West Virginia. I don't know the injury with Larry Johnson, but both those guys are listed as questionable this week. They were questionable last week at this time as well, or against West Virginia week, and didn't play. So who knows what to expect with that? They've had guys before that have been questionable on Wednesday and then wound up playing on Saturday. So we'll see.
Yeah, I mean, obviously Jordan Seaton is the important one there. Not to
Yeah,
say Johnson isn't, but if you get Seaton back, then you can put Harden on the right side, and you don't lose a whole lot there. I don't think.
yeah,
You'd like to have Johnson in there because there's been stretches where he's been really good this season, but I don't think that that's quite as important. You just whatever it takes to not have 15 tackles for a loss in a football game where you've got an 18-year-old true freshman quarterback. I think that's whatever needs to take place for that. And I'm curious what Brett Bartoloni can do with a bye week.
Yeah.
You're not going to change too much. You can't. That's going to be a recipe for disaster. But you can do more wrinkles if you've got some time to throw some things in there and have some extra practices with these guys. So uh, maybe they can get Julian Lewis a little bit more comfortable. And I was surprised after that West Virginia game, Brian, because I asked Coach Prime, "Are you proud of the resilience Julian showed while he was sacked 7 times?" And he
Yeah.
said, well, he's a young quarterback. He's going to learn how to get out of there. So he kind of put it on Juju a little bit. But I think until he fully gets these game reps under his belt, you got to keep things a little bit creative to keep the defense off guard. So a very long-winded way to answer your question there. But yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, but I agree with all that. I also am curious to see how that bye week and all that those hours of study that Coach Prime mentioned, is that going to help Julian uh, take a sack or two off of that net number, right?
Yeah.
And maybe between Bartoloni and Lewis and maybe a little bit better line play, you get sacked 3 times as opposed to 7. Another 7 would not be good. Obviously, you don't want that kid getting hit that much, but I think all those things have to be better. And that's what's fun about a young quarterback and a talented quarterback like Julian Lewis is us watching the progression and seeing how he's going to get better game to game. And I think the big stride's going to be next year. But look, I mean, when he played against Arizona, it was much better than it was against Delaware. And then I thought when he played against West Virginia, it was much better than it looked the week before against Arizona. So I'm curious after a week off how all of that looks, this week against Arizona State.
And maybe the Colorado fans' least favorite topic of talking about how guys are doing in practice. I would say that Julian Lewis, this bye week, and I know that well off and you know Darius and Neely, they show you what you want to see, but there's been enough footage out there during this bye week, Brian, that like it seems like he's taking this by the horns. He's
Yeah.
doing what he needed to do since getting this opportunity, and it looks like he and Omari Miller are continuing to build on that chemistry. Joseph, he's found out how to really set those guys up for a 50-50 ball to be 80-20, 90-10, you know?
Yeah. Including getting braids so he doesn't
Yeah.
get pulled down by the hair
Yeah.
and lose a clump of hair again. But yeah, that's the other part of this is that Julian, it appears like watching you well off and everything that he was just a young man, and we've talked about it before that he wasn't going to say a whole lot when he's not the guy. But now that he's in there, it's like you hear his voice a little bit more, and
Mhm.
it's almost like he was waiting. Like when I have my opportunity, I will be a leader and I'll do all this stuff. And so now he's got that opportunity, and that's what's fun about a young quarterback is just seeing all those things mature. And I expect him to be better. I mean, he seems like he's that type of player that's going to take it by the horns. And I think that's one of the big things he has over Caden Salter is that he's going to be that leader type and that one that really embraces and runs with an opportunity like this. And so um, it will be interesting to see if he can rein in and say and keep a guy like Omarion and Joseph Williams. Look, we know both those guys. They were suspended earlier this year for being late. Coach Prime this week, when he was talking about Joseph Williams, says I got to keep him on the throat. I wonder if Julian Lewis is that type of player that can do that same and kind of rein these guys in and say, guys, let's go, let's get locked in.
I think over time, for sure, how quickly that will come. I would say recently we've seen some signs that maybe it'll come quicker than we thought
Yeah,
it would have had you asked us a couple months ago. Julian Lewis started for a really successful football program in Georgia as a freshman in high school,
yeah,
and he's played a lot of high pressure games. Yeah, not with as many people in the stadium as he's dealing with right now, but you don't have success like that as a quarterback without having some leadership qualities. I have started, Brian. I'm curious your thoughts on this. Started to think about like I think Julian probably could have gotten here quicker, but maybe he was deferring to Caden Salter because they are friends. They're really, I mean, we heard at Media Day that Caden refers to Julian as his little brother and vice versa,
Yeah.
big brother.
Hmm.
Um, I wonder if he just kind of was just waiting for this, opportunity to really have that voice.
Yeah, and not offend his friend, right?
Yep.
And not step on the shoes. Because that position more than any other is so delicate. I mean, linebacker you can rotate, running back you can rotate. You don't rotate quarterbacks, and it's you're either in or you're out. And so I think there is some of that that's going on. And it was Julian kind of like, when I'm the guy, I'll be the guy, but until then, it's Caden's team. And so um, I'm curious I'd be curious to see what their conversations were like behind the scenes during those weeks. But yeah, I think being the guy, I think we're going to see Julian take off a little bit quicker than maybe we thought.
Yeah. And it's what everybody's clinging on to these last 2 weeks. There's
Yeah,
not a whole lot else, Brian.
right,
Aside
right.
from some great stories like Jeremiah Brown, that was awesome to talk to him yesterday. And
Yeah,
but it really it's about the future right now.
yeah, it really is. And but real quick, a couple of the things on the injury report: Carter Stoutmeyer, Brandon Davis Swain, both questionable. Those are key guys that have started a lot of games this year. So we'll see. But
John Slaughter's been coming on at safety.
John
Had a
Slaughter's been coming
huge play
on.
out there in
Yeah.
West Virginia. Yeah.
I guess on the plus side, London Merritt, Zach Atkins, Alexander McPherson probable. McPherson's missed the last few games, so the fact that he's probable, that's a good thing because he was playing fairly well before he got hurt. So um, I guess at this point, after all these weeks of the injuries, you just look at it and say, whatever. Yeah, they've dealt with this many and more in previous weeks, and you just kind of get through it, right?
Well, I mean, you get through it, but you're 3-7, so
Right.
there's that.
Yeah, but I mean,
There's that side of it.
that's what I'm saying is, I mean, there's no, you're 3-7, so like, what's the point in the doom and gloom
Right.
now? It's like, well,
Right.
you're three and
Yeah.
seven.
Sure.
I guess my point is we've just been dealing with it for several. They've been dealing with it for several weeks now, and so you just ride
We're
with
we're
whoever's
we're
healthy.
we're numb to it, is what you're saying, right?
That's right. Yeah, at this point, you just ride with whoever's healthy, and so and that's a transition to our preview here. We'll see who's healthy on Saturday. But what do you think? How do you think this game turns out? 2 games left, last game at home, no bowl game out there. But how do you think this game turns out?
They got a dual threat quarterback, Brian.
I know.
That's not good.
No,
And
it's not.
Jeff Sims had some issues the last time he went up against the Buffaloes,
Yep.
but he's gotten better, and he's been co Big 12 Offensive Player of the Week the last 2 weeks, winning against conference opponents and running for a lot of yards. And so Jeremiah Brown, man, you gotta get fired up for senior day. It's going to be a tough matchup for them. Also, this is not the Arizona State team that had the soul that it did
Right.
last year with Cam Scatabo and just kind of the momentum they rode with him and his toughness. They do have a successful ground game, but talking with their Arizona State publisher, they have struggled getting touchdowns in the red zone because they don't have kind of that physical presence the same
Hmm.
way they did a year ago. So it's going to be a tough matchup. Arizona State can run the football, both with the quarterback and their running backs. We'll see if Jordan Tyson's healthy, but even if he is, it doesn't sound like he's going to be 100% in this game. So it's going to be a game where you limit Arizona State to under 200 yards rushing. You have a really good chance of winning this football game.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, the evidence that we've seen to this point through 10 games is that they don't really do that often against Power Four teams that are good at running the football. So I'm going to go Arizona State 30, Colorado 24. Um, I don't. I think now that they've gotten this Julian Lewis juice, I don't think you're going to see the 53 to sevens or the 52 to 17s these next 2 weeks. But I think it's still going to be really challenging to get that dub.
Yeah, and I agree with you on that. Now, I mean, these are two of the lowest scoring teams in the conference. It's not the same ASU team. I think they've hit 30 twice this year, and it was against North Texas and Northern Arizona. They haven't hit 30 in a conference game yet this year, which is surprising to me. Lots of one score games for them. I think they're 5-2 in one score games, and I think they're 13th in scoring, the Buffs are 15th in the conference, so not a lot of points. But if you're an Arizona State team, you're probably looking at your offense and saying, "Ooh, this is the defense we want to see," right? And if you're Jeff Sims, you're probably like, you know what, this sucked the last time I came to Folsom, but I can't wait to see this defense in the offense I'm in right now. So he's going to be dangerous for them this week. But I'm going to give the Buffs the benefit of the doubt that they're going to come out on Senior Day motivated with that Julian juice and get a victory on Senior Day. Send those seniors out the right way. I'm going to go Buffs 27, Arizona State 24.
Well, okay. Well, no one can call you a hater anymore, Brian.
Look, I've picked them a few times during this stretch here that even as I mean, look, I picked them to beat Arizona and they lose 52 to
I
17.
should have thrown the sarcasm font in there, of course. Like you've never been a hater.
No, I'm not.
That was a silly narrative that I don't know
Yes,
who started that,
I
but
never have been. We just try to be real sometimes when things aren't going well, and they're not
yeah.
going well. But I'm trying to find some positive signs in this, and seeing that this team can maybe gather itself together. They need a win. I mean, we started this talking about the recruiting trail, to stop any of that bleeding and get some momentum on the recruiting trail. You've got to show some fight and grab a victory or two down the stretch here. Coach Prime said it this week that look, on the field is kind of what we need recruiting wise, and they need to win games, and I think they get one this week.
All right. It would be a better post game analysis video if you're right. I would definitely not mind being wrong on this one. So we'll see. I just you got to work with the evidence you're given, Brian.
That's right. Well, hey, even if it's a one score loss, I think some Buff fans would be happy with that the way things have gone lately. So,
As long as Julian Lewis looks good and you're kind of
yeah,
building for the future,
right,
sure.
yeah,
But just visions of dual threat quarterbacks just running around Folsom Field, man. It gives you nightmares as a Buffs fan.
it's hard to get that out of your head. I know.
It's,
Awesome. Well, we'll see you on Saturday night.
sounds good, Brian. Thank you.